When we think of climate change, we think about icebergs crashing into the ocean or forests burning in Amazonia, or closer to home, of cars floating down flooded streets. And if we're having a good day, then we might think about wind turbines generating renewable energy or dream of buying a super cool electric car. But I bet the last thing we think about is money. And yet, I think you would all agree that nothing happens in this world without a little money. So, money and finance are what I'm going to talk about, and more specifically, how we need to be financing the future we all wish to have. So, how much money do you think there is in the world? If we count all the notes and coins, the gold, our money in the bank, shares and bonds on the stock market, as well as all the buildings and property and land, we get a grand total of almost $750 trillion. But that's a bit difficult to visualize. So let's look at how many zeros that represents. 1, 2, 3, oh my God, there are loads of them. A whole 13, in fact. But how much of all these trillions are invested in the sustainable solutions that are already working to save the planet and the human race? Well, today we're investing around $3 trillion every year in projects which are supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs for short. These SDGs are the goals which have been adopted by almost every single country in the world as a framework for creating the future we all want across the world by 2030. There are things like eradicating poverty or getting quality education, peace, justice. So who's not to want all of that? There's already a small amount of money, the $3 trillion flowing to sustainable financing every year. But these goals are pretty ambitious. If I were you, sitting in my living room right now, I would be thinking that clearly we need to be allocating half of all the money in the world towards sustainable development to stop icebergs collapsing, forests burning, and children unnecessarily dying. But that's far from being the case. We're actually not doing too badly at all. Experts from the United Nations have estimated that we only need to double our $3 trillion allocation to be between $5 and $7 trillion every year for the next 10 years to meet those global goals. That is less than 1% of all the money in the world that every year needs to be invested in sustainable development in order to finance the future we all want to have. Now, I've always been a finance person, so normally I understand finance topics. But I have this one unanswered question that keeps going around in my head. Why are my finance friends and colleagues not already channeling the necessary trillions to the right places? Well, let's start with one of the biggest challenges the sustainability movement has faced over the years. I'm talking about greenwashing. What do I mean when I say greenwashing? Well, we have two main situations. The first is when companies, usually big, mega corporations, try to hide or cover up their less than fantastic environmental or social records with a grand public gesture towards green causes. In an age of phones, social media, these big PR campaigns are often scrutinized and then criticized pretty quickly. So take Amazon, for example. It was only 2 months ago that Jeff Bezos pledged $10 billion to his Earth Fund, dedicated to fighting climate change. And yet Amazon's total sales last year were $280 billion. And Jeff's measly $10 billion was slammed as greenwashing. Secondly, the other type of greenwashing can be a bit more hard to spot and is far more insidious. This is where companies and brands use words like green, sustainable, eco-friendly simply as a marketing tactic without any deep thought about those terms, what it actually means to them, and crucially, without any accountability for their actions. Why do you think McDonald's golden arches have started appearing on a green background instead of a red one across Europe? Well, it's because they're green and healthy, isn't it? So who can blame my prudent financier friends having trouble with all the greenwashing and embracing a whole rainbow of colourful sustainable development goals, these SDGs? But honestly, whether you're a banker, a teacher, or a hairdresser, recent events have really pushed our collective thinking to a tipping point as we struggle through this global COVID pandemic and we enjoy the hottest September on record. And as I'm here to talk about money, another thing which has also helped my traditional banker colleagues to look up from their Excel spreadsheets is that just this summer, Shell and Total, two of the world's largest energy companies, were forced to record enormous financial losses to their fossil fuel assets because of plunging demand for oil. So where does that put us on our road to financing the future we all wish to have? There are 3 words every one of you should keep in mind, particularly if you have anything to do with our future, and particularly if you are a banker. Education, transition, and ambition. So the first is education, which is quite fitting as we sit here today in the University of Luxembourg. But I would like to start right at the top in the boardroom, where the most strategic decisions are made for companies by the directors. Until recently, most management theories and indeed certain laws dealing with how companies should be governed placed the most important priority for top management to protect the best interests of the owners or the shareholders by absolutely maximising the gains. The shareholders, they want dividends, they want an increase in the share price, which both depend on the company's financial performance. So top management and directors have historically focused only on the financial returns that a business is generating for the investors. But some shareholders and directors are asking if there isn't something in this sustainability story. The thing is that all those extremely experienced board directors, as well as their highly intelligent financiers and bankers, well, they're all wired to think finance first. And suddenly, now they're faced with this requirement to unlearn finance first and think more holistically. But these guys, and a few girls, need help with this. They need a new learning plan, a proper education program to help them grasp this more holistic approach and evolving responsibility. But we can't expect top management and top bankers to do this alone. This is where the role of organisations teaching the leaders of tomorrow are so important and have that critical role to ensure that we have enough environmental scientists, sustainable finance professionals and others coming into the employment market who will in turn make their essential contribution to moving us towards that future we are all wishing for. So that is education. Now I would like to turn to the lens which these professionals, whether they're board members or the newest recruits, need to look through when they're making decisions. I'm talking about a transition lens. So my second word is transition. So what do I mean by that? I'd like to take you here to the Danish coast, to a small town called Fredericia. We're going to visit a unique, award-winning business, the world's most sustainable company. Fredericia is the home of Denmark's largest energy company called Ørsted. 10 years ago, Ørsted, or Danish oil and natural gas, as it was known in those days, was one of Europe's most highly intensive fossil fuel companies. Over the last 10 years, Ørsted has completely transitioned to now being fully focused on renewable energy. It even had to change its name 3 years ago from Danish Oil and Natural Gas to Ørsted because it didn't do oil and natural gas anymore. This is what I mean by transition, a company completely adapting its business model to support that future that we all wish for. And what convincing proof that is to demonstrate that making a complete transition or transformation is really possible. But I still see my finance first colleagues frowning. So I wanted to share with you an added bonus Ørsted's investors have enjoyed in the last few years. Take a look at this chart. So the brown line at the bottom shows how much stock markets have not gone up over the last 4 years. But look at the blue line going up and up and up, showing the price of Ørsted's shares. Their value has increased by almost 300% in just 4 years. The Ørsted story is a great example of transition and embracing the change that we so much need to get that future we want. So, as a finance person, many of the preconceived ideas I would have had before, like, oh my God, it's too difficult to transform, or financial returns will be lower, well, they're swiftly chucked out the window. So I've mentioned how education is a key piece of the puzzle. So investing in upskilling our society will help businesses and financiers to make the right decisions and invest in the right solutions for that future, the right future, the one we all wish for. But there's still one piece of my puzzle to slot in, and that is ambition. Salvador Dali, the Spanish artist, made an excellent quote which is extremely appropriate for our challenge today. Intelligence without ambition is like a bird without wings. So, climate change now has the attention of business leaders and financiers, all of whom are most certainly very intelligent, and they're waking up to the opportunities to investing in sustainable solutions can bring. Or in the words of Salvador, they're sprouting mini wings. It's taken a good 30 years, though, since the first sustainable management theories were penned. So we have waited a long, long time to get to here now. And frankly, if you listen to the scientists and the specialists, like these intelligent business leaders should be doing, then it's actually almost too late. So I ask you intelligent business leaders out there to start spreading your wings of ambition, and please get on with it fast. I'd also like to challenge financiers to be daring. That doesn't mean ignore the risks. That means understand them, embrace them, and support those businesses that are stepping out of their comfort zone, as must you, the financiers, too. That means be intelligent and ambitious by only financing those who are also being ambitious. So yes, ambition is very definitely the third piece of the puzzle. There are 2 types of business scenarios that financiers should be prioritising as a source of opportunities and high impact, and which also tick the ambition box. The first is the easy step, the low-hanging fruit, if you like. You need to stop investing in what are commonly called brown activities like coal power plants, and we need to switch investments to green or SDG, sustainable rainbow activities instead, such as renewable energy or lab-grown meat products or care homes for the elderly. You know, those businesses that are so obviously fitting into a positive model for society and the planet. The second priority should be to support transition. I mean, focusing on all those other budding Ørsteds out there which do have ambitious plans, but just need the financing and the right support to repeat that same performance over and over and over again. It is really important that we, the financiers, focus on these companies with a pathway to transition. It's them that will have the greatest positive impacts on the world. We should be together looking at only one destination, maybe the pot of gold at the end of this SDG rainbow. Like I said at the very beginning, You can have the most fantastic, transformative idea or technology which will save the planet and the human race from extinction, but without finance, your idea is quite frankly dead. That's why the financial sector has such an important role to play in facilitating our journey to the other end of the SDG rainbow. But the financial sector has to step up. We have to upskill and we have to focus on the right opportunities. We need to be ambitious and support our ambitious clients. Listen to and use the expertise of the scientists to confirm we're on the right pathway and our clients haven't whipped out their greenwash paintbrushes. If the financial sector can prioritise education and focus their ambition on transition, then we'll be well on the way to financing that world, the one we all wish for. Thank you.